Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. Fueled by voter discontent and a grassroots groundswell, GOP victories in the midterm elections gave Republicans many more seats than they needed to gain control of the House. Republicans also narrowed the Democrat majority in the Senate. Celebrating the wins is former House Majority Leader Dick Armey. He represented Texas's 26th congressional district and is the current chairman of FreedomWorks. Leader Armey is also the author of the new book, Give Us Liberty, a Tea Party manifesto, which he co-wrote with FreedomWorks CEO Matt Kibbe. He joins us now from FreedomWorks headquarters in Washington, where crews are still cleaning up after last night's big party. Welcome back to Newsmax TV, Leader.
Well, it's nice to be back with you.
You served as House Majority Leader when the Republicans took the House and with Newt Gingrich engineered the Republican Revolution of '94. Are you feeling a sense of deja vu today?
Well, a little bit. This is better than '94 for a lot of reasons. One, the threat that the nation faced this year is much more onerous, much more frightening, and so therefore the victory that allows us to put a cork in the bottle and stop this leftward march that this administration had been making is very exciting to us, because we feel like we just stopped it just before we went off the cliff. Secondly, this is a groundswell movement from America. The real big change that we see here in this country right now, the paradigm shift, is America has said definitively, we do not take from Washington what Washington wants us to have and like it or lump it. We tell Washington what we require of them. This is a big difference and a big change where America is really fundamentally going back to its roots. The citizen activist is controlling his government. That's the way it was intended, and we're excited to watch this process.
Leader Armey, FreedomWorks endorsed 100 races in the House and 12 in the Senate. How did your Tea Party candidates fare?
Well, we were pretty excited. 67 newly elected members or elected members of Congress signed the contract from America. That's a very good score. 55 in the House, 12 in the Senate, including your Marco Rubio, who is probably the cream of the crop, and he's so exciting a fellow to watch. But the fact of the matter is, we feel very good that we have managed to go beyond winning a Republican majority, and far more importantly, to the winning of a conservative majority. And the constitutionally limited small government conservatives will set the agenda in office, in the House at least, just as they did in America in this grassroots movement for this election. So the constitutional small government conservative is the wave of this Congress, and I think of the future.
Now, already Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is saying that he's willing to tweak Obamacare. Should Republicans be looking to deal on health care?
Well, I think what the Republicans ought to do, first of all, in order to punctuate the point that Obamacare is grotesquely unacceptable to the American people, at least in the House, take the full repeal to the floor and have a vote. Bang. I promise you it will pass, and it'll pass with as many as 20 Democrat votes, all appreciating their chance to make the vote. All right, then get into the nuts and bolts of this. Certainly the mandates. You can start taking some of these very onerous trespasses against individual liberty out of the bill. There may, in fact, be, if you dig deep enough in this bill, a thing or two worth saving. Maybe save those things and then put them in combination with the more critically missed opportunities like tort reform and interstate purchases of insurance. So you don't necessarily have to vacate the whole issue of trying to repair the delivery of healthcare services in America through a more effective market operation, but you can certainly turn away from government control of healthcare through sabotage of the private sector, which is what Obamacare was really all about.
What about the question of the Bush tax cuts? Extending the cuts is a big issue for the lame duck session of Congress and quite possibly the new GOP-controlled House seated in January. What should be done here?
Well, I can't believe that the outgoing Democrat majority and the continuing Democrat White House are so callously blind in their understanding of the requirements of the American people that they won't see the need as they go into this lame duck session to make at least a full 1 year extension of the Bush tax cuts the number one priority of this lame duck session. What are you going to do in a lame duck session if you don't give the economy a chance to grow, give investors the opportunity to feel some confidence and make the investment? So a minimal full extension of 1 year, a full extension of the Bush tax law for 1 year is a minimal concession to America that, yes, we understand you, we heard you, and we agree with you what must be done. If the Democrats miss this point, then they just reaffirm the worst fears of most Americans, that the Democrats refuse to listen to America. They're determined to have it their way.
Now, last night, President Obama called John Boehner, who's expected to be the next House Speaker, to say he's looking forward to working with him and finding common ground. Do you see this happening?
Well, I mean, the president is very good with ceremonial and political things. The question is, at some point the rubber's going to hit the road. He's going to have to do something substantive, actually take a legislative act and see the extent to which he's willing to work out, for example, you can work out the budget circumstances and differences. We did it with the Clinton administration for 8 years. It can be done if the president is willing to come to the table, sit down, and really work. Or is he going to resort to form, which for this president has been, just go out and tell the world how irresponsible is everyone who disagrees with me, including most of the voters out there.
You've backed John Boehner for House Speaker. Tell us why and what he needs to do to bring the Republican Party, Tea Partiers, and establishment together to create jobs and tackle the struggling economy.
Well, I've known John for a lot of years. I've had the privilege of working with him. I know some things that I can rely on about John Boehner. He is a reliable conservative. He's got a proven track record, including being the first guy to try to get a ban on earmarks. He is also, in a very quiet way that's reassuring in and of itself, an extremely competent person who insists that we do good work here, that we get a product through the legislative process, we iron out all the wrinkles, we solve all the problems, we fix all the loose ends, and now we bring it to the floor as a legislative effort that has such good standing with the American people at large that the votes will naturally come to it. And so he's disciplined, he's capable, he's responsible, and he understands the way the world works. And I think this nation ought to feel quite comfortable trusting him to lead this Congress. And he will. By the way, he will lead this Congress, House and Senate alike, if he asserts himself.
Some are saying that real gains here were not just in Washington, but also in state houses. Do you agree?
Oh, yes, it's very important. Take a look at John Kasich in Ohio. Well, this is a big, big, big deal. So we've won some very important governorships, one in South Carolina, and we've moved state legislative bodies. And our activists across the country understand. Now I got the opportunity to work on legislation in two venues, in Washington on the national issues and in my state. Every state in this country has to be brought back from a fiscal stress point, sometimes downright dangerous. And every group of activists has a chance now to work with their new state legislature, many of which will be in fact governed by small government conservatives. Now, you're going to have real problem areas like California, which apparently California is just a state of slow learners. They're just never going to get to where they need to be to get their state put back together on some responsible basis. So there will be some areas, some states where it isn't going to be a happy experience trying to work with the legislative bodies, but it's going to be a remarkably productive adventure for the activists working with the state legislators in most of the states of the Union.
Republicans and Democrats are looking toward 2012 now. Who would you like to see run for president for the Republicans? There seems to be no shortage of potential Republican candidates who are at least thinking about it.
Well, there are no shortage of good people available and considering entering that race. Now, this is what it is. It's an open primary process. We all have a right to get in it. I could get in it. You could get in it. Any number of other people could. Everybody has the right to make their case before the electorate. And I am confident that this reborn conservative Republican Party that's at large in America, voting in all these primaries, are going to sort this out and come up with the best candidate. The Democrats, on the other hand, have got a real dilemma. President Barack Obama has already made it clear that he's not going to be reelected in a second term. Now, how do they relieve themselves through their primary process of this deadweight loss they've got in the president and find another candidate? That's a real dilemma for them. What we face on the Republican side of the aisle is not a dilemma. From many good options, choose the most best one. That's not a bad choice configuration. I'll take it every time.
Do you see President Obama facing a primary challenge from the Democratic Party in 2012?
Well, I think it's quite possible. Of course, it often depends right now on what he does. If President Obama is the rigid, inflexible ideologue that I believe he is, and he says, hey, I'm sticking to my guns no matter what, and I don't care how many people around me die, I'm going to stand with the dreams from my father and be that person, then he becomes a real burden to the Democrat Party in 2 years. And if that's the case, their lust for victory will very likely cause them to turn to somebody else in their own primary process.
And who do you think that person might be?
Well, obviously the first, most obvious person to challenge him is Hillary Clinton. I know an awful lot of Democrats who voted for President Barack Obama in the primary who are saying, hey, man, did I make a mistake? I should have voted for Hillary. So whether or not she does that, I don't know. But look, if any incumbent is distressing enough to the party will find somebody within themselves and among themselves that'll challenge that incumbent in the primary.
All right, FreedomWorks Chairman, Leader Dick Armey, thanks so much for joining us today. How can people find out more about FreedomWorks?
Well, just go to Google and type in FreedomWorks, and it'll lead you to us. We've got a good website. A lot of people, in fact, this whole grassroots movement found us. By the way, keep your eyes open. In the next few weeks, we're going to be unveiling a brand new communications technology available to all liberty-loving advocates of constitutionally limited small government. Will make us all even more effective and keeping our message consolidated and in front of the people whose affections, who covet our affection.
All right, Leader Armey, thanks so much. We'll be looking out for that, and we look forward to learning more about that in the near future. Thanks so much again for joining us here on Newsmax TV.
You bet. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.